Hi everybody and welcome back to ProSportFisher.com. I'm Morten and today we're going to tie a silver Wilkinson inspired tube fly. It is this critter. The silver Wilkinson is a very old pattern and it has been remade in so many different variants that I have my doubts on how the actual original silver Wilkinson is. But the general theme here is pink, blue and black. I'm going to take you through some of the components that we're using, the chassis, so to speak, and then of course I'm going to tell you there is one thing that you need to be aware of when it comes to putting in weights inside the tube fly, and then I'm just going to speak along as we go, and hopefully you will find some inspiration on how you can tie this fly, because this is just how can you say, concept of tying a short body Scandinavian style that is very, very durable and will serve you well for many days straight if you just tie it in right. So let's start tying, and hopefully you can find a little bit of inspiration in it. Okay, let's start tying. Now, a little bit of an explainer about why I choose the tube that I do in this fly. The silver Wilkinson, it's a very famous fly, has been tied in thousands of different variations. So, but what we're going to use today is, first of all, the nanotube. The nanotube is derivates from the microtube, which is a quite short tube, especially designed for short body styled Scandinavian tube flies, but a lot of especially American fly tyers wanted a little bit of a longer tube, and that's why we created the nanotube. There's a stop, double barbed tab at the end to mount the hook guide on, and one of the reasons that we designed this kind of custom design system was that in earlier years, the silicone tubing used typically in hook guiding on a tube fly was very bulky, and especially in smaller hook sizes, it chewed up a lot of the hook gap, making it less effective. So we decided to make a custom designed hook guide. So why use the hook guide? Well, if you see here, I love double hooks on my tube flies. The hook guide is actually, as the name implies, guiding the hook. And it makes so that if you have a fish on, there's no torque, there's no leverage on, let's say, for example, a long shanked hook. And it will cover, especially on the treble hooks, which are really used a lot in Europe, it will cover the exit point where hair normally gets snagged very easy. So it covers the junction point, it connects to the tube, it sits really, really well, and it protects the knot. And it is as slim as possible while still being ultra, ultra durable. So it's the nanotube with a hook guide. So let's mount up the hook guide, and it is always the thin end that goes towards where the hook are. And then we have our nanotube with the flexi needle. It's super easy to attach your tube and make it ready to tie, because you just take it and you slide it backwards. The sides, the flat grinded sides on the needle will hold the tube very firmly in place. Then you just take your hook guide, slide it onto the locking tab. And now the weight. The weight that we will be using in this is a nobody, or very close to nobody, style of Scandinavian tube fly. And the weight that we'll be using is the FlexiBeat 5.2 millimeter, 0.45 grams in the color pink. This will make the materials flare very nicely. But in the past year, there has been a tendency in the fly tying world, especially here in Scandinavia, that you just slam a large cone behind all the materials and you finish off the flies and you're good to go. Well, we tried that many, many years ago. I think it's almost 20 years ago. But we quite quickly discovered that if you do that, the fly looks amazing. But if you fish your fly hard, foliage and rocks and that kind of stuff will very quickly destroy your fly, because you can almost refer it as the anvil effect. If you have soft materials and nothing to protect it in the front, rocks and foliage and leaves and all that kind of stuff will just very quickly chop off the materials. So when you're using this style of weights, this is also the drop weight, the raw weight, the flexi bead, or whatever weight you're putting in there. Make sure that you have a cone head to protect that is equal the diameter of the weight or bigger, because then you will have all the soft materials very well protected and it will last a lot longer. So this is just a quick tip. Now this led us to the finishing touch, which is going to be a pink cone head, and the fly is when the material is tied in, ready to go. So that's the words. So we can leave the weight on there, remove the cone, and we can more or less start tying. Okay, so we're going to tie in the GSP thread like this. Let me just zoom out a little bit here. Wabba. And the first thing that we will be putting in is a hackle. We're going to use the Keok soft patch. Very affordable, fantastic capes, if you can call it that. And we're going to take one which is not too long. This is going to be one of 3 hackles that goes on there. We're going to strip the fluffy stuff, and then I'm going to turn it around and cut the tip into a small triangle, and I tie it in on top, secure it with a few wraps, take my hackle gauge, and as I turn it, I pull the fibers back. Now you have to be very careful that you don't extend too far away from the weight, because that will leave not a very nice fly design in the end. So you can go on top of itself, so to speak, and when this is tied in, just secure it with your tying thread, pull it back, and I actually, most of the time, actually go up and secure it on the other side of the stem. So, and then I'm just cutting away this, pulling it down. Oh, pulled a few fibers off there. Not good, but anyway, it'll be good for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to tie in a little bit of angel hair. This is the color Cotton Candy. Since the color theme of the fly is pink, blue, black, this has a very nice hue to it. Not a lot, unless you of course intend to fish it in super dirty water, but just a few fibers. Slide it in, back, secure it, 2 wraps, and roughly trim it. You're going to trim it finally at the end. So what we're going to do now is we're going to tie in some marble fox. This is a breeded version. It's a crossbreed between a standard fox and an Arctic fox. We're just going to take, we're not going to overdress this fly. So we're going to hold it in our fingers. And since this is the first wing, we're not, we don't want to have the super long guard hairs. So I'm going to remove some of the guard hairs like this. And I'm going to flip it around, take my micro comb here, and then I'm going to take away some of the underwool. This leaves us with a nice chunk of hair. Now this is where you decide how big is your fly going to be. So I'm going to have this fly at, let's say, 6-7 centimeters. So put this in, I measure the length, grab everything, take the thread, just grab it between your fingers. Makes it a lot easier when you pull down. and this ensures that the chunk of hair is staying directly on top. Very easy trick. And then I'm going to take my thumbnail. I'm going to spread it out a little bit, because this is going to help me to obtain that drop shape. But as you can see, the drop weight is really helping to lift up the wing. So I'm going to trim. When it comes to super close trimming, I always use a scalpel. But be very careful, because you can really easily cut your thread. I'm going to just let it sink as soon as, with no pressure, as soon as it hits the tube, just stop. And I'm going to throw in just a few strands of the cotton candy angel hair. Lift that on top. Now here I'm going to spread it out in a V shape. So as you can see, I tie it in at an angle, and then when I pull this back, it's going to create a perfect V shape. This means that the angel hair is going to be placed on the, more or less on the outside of the wing, which is where it's visible. So that's why I do it like that. Again, going to roughly trim. And that's that operation. Now we're going to take another feather, which has a little bit longer fibers. This is perfect for the job. Then I'm going to peel off where the fluffy stuff starts. 100% the same procedure as with the first one. Going to cut it into a small triangle. This is just for durability. And then I'm going to lay it on top. Oh. And pull it in. Secure it with 2-3 wraps. As you can see, it almost slides into the materials, making it super secure. Then I'm going to take my hackle plier, pull back, and start wrapping. Now, as this is a bigger feather, this is going to be a lot more, how can you say, visible. But you don't want to go long feathers and short feathers, because it's going to give a funky look to the fly. Pull back, secure, just like this. Okay, so you could actually take it off now and use it, but we're going to give it a little bit more 12-string electric banjo. So now what we're going to do is we're going to give it just a slightly longer piece of marble fox, a chunk of marble fox. And in this one, we're going to leave the guard hairs, but remove the underwool. This is going to give it a very, it's going to give it a longer taper. Pull it back. Now again, up against your fingers, so you see no thread tension. Just put it in there. Now, what we do is, again, with the nail, your nail, you're just going to slide it a little bit out to both sides. This is going to give a very nice drop-shaped profile. And I'm going to go back again. When you're tying the Scandinavian, or how can you say, no body style of fly, it's very important that you use a thin, strong thread and not overdo the wraps. Like this, just clean up a little bit. Coming in with the scalpel, let it sink into the hair. just like this. And now we're going to come in with this. This is exactly the same soft patch as before, but just in a kingfisher blue color. We're going to use some of the longest feathers we can find on this. Strip the fluff. Cut it off. Turn it around. And then I'm going to tie it in here. Now, like this. Now, a small trick that I've done, this is just a, how can you say, tune-up of tools. You don't need all that kind of special customized tools. Is I've just taken, this is a standard made in India scalpel handle, and I just taken a small piece, grind it in a small V shape. And what this is very good for is kind of loosening up those fibers so that they are standing alone. And then we're going to wind it back, because this is the defining hackle. There's not going to be more hackles on this fly. Turn it. Oh. I can see that the stem on this one is a little bit thicker than on the pink one, but it doesn't matter. I think we're good there. So what you do is you just go up and you secure it tight. Now we're starting to get the color theme of a silver Wilkinson coming out. So what we want to do now is put in just a thin top of marble fox. This is the tailpiece of a marble fox tail, and we want to have this as the longest part of the fly. So I'm going to take a chunk like this. This we're going to trim down quite a bit. We're going to remove a lot of the underfur and stuff like that. Again, the small comb. Remove all the fluffy stuff, because this is the roof. And you just have, I love this material, it's just amazing. And now the wing is pretty much ready to be tied in. But before we're going to do this, we're just going to add a little bit of angel hair. This is called black light. And what we're going to do is we're going to do exactly the same as with the second bunch of angel hair. You're just going to lift it in, tie it in a 45-degree angle, tighten it up, pull it back. Oh, this could have been slightly better, but it doesn't matter that much, because the top wing is so transparent. Now we have a little bit of glitter. Now we're going to come in with the sparse top wing. We're going to put that on top, like this. And this I'm not going to, how can you say, press down and flare, because I want this to be a kind of a thin stripe on the top. So I will just keep it fairly slim, like this. Again, using the scalpel to trim. Now it's really starting to look like something. So now, one thing I really love when I tie flies is grizzly feathers. Another one of nature's wonders to us fly tiers. And I think this is a whiting, but there's several breeders which offer this. This is. I'm going to take 2, and this is to add just a tad of blue to the wing. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to take it almost to the end, like here. Now this can be a little tricky to tie in, so I put it in like this. See, it spins. So a little trick there is that you can just squeeze it. Now what you did, instead of the stem doing like this, it is like this. And then now it's much easier to tie in. So see? Perfect. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Just going to measure this here. Cut it off. Give it a good solid squeeze with the plier, like this. Then I'm going to lay it down on the side. Make sure that it comes in at the exact same length. Like this. Gonna cut the stems off. Just let it touch. Now, since this is a salmon fly, I think we're gonna put Generation 3 Pro Sportfisher Jungle Cock, best in the business. These are pre-cut. They are super realistic. They are black on the backside, so it will not have this white background that the first generation had. Not that it do a lot, because the actual feather is pretty white back on the back. We're going to take this, we're going to do the far side first. Now the good thing about this is that it is just so ridiculously easy to use, and I've been on shows where even hardcore fly tiers that hated synthetic materials couldn't see the difference. So I don't think that the salmon can see the difference. And we're just going to release this. Now we're going to flip it over, and we're going to tie this in at exactly the same length. You can look at it from the top. You can just pull it up. Looks okay. Approximately. Boom. Like this. Just gonna take the small snippet there and just remove it. It's going to be hidden in the cone, so it's not going to be a problem. So now all we need now to finish the fly, A little trick when it comes to the Pro Jungle Cock Gen 3 is that if you take any kind of blunt object, I just have a spare Tubefly needle here, and you just take it and you put your finger on it, do like this, it will have a super nice curve to it. It just looks so nice. So if you want to have it, give it a slight curve, just like this. Okay, so the finishing touch, we're going to use Sabagap 10-second glue. You don't need to cut the thread or anything because the glue will secure everything very nice. Put it on there. Take a cone head, like this. I use this half hitch tool from CNF Design. It's just a really nice way to push the cone back. You can just let it sit there for a few seconds. Trim, like this. Very close now. Now when you're going to cut it, you want to cut it approximately 1 millimeter in front of the cone head, and we're gonna like this. And then I just leave it at the end of the needle. And I take my lighter and I just heat it up. The material composition of the plastic makes it melt very even. And then you just pull it back. And then now you have a super nice Tubefly. Now what you want to do now is if there is going to be some final trimming, this is the time to do it. Just let your comb go through it. And if there is any angel hair that is a bit too long, just cut it. And there you have it. This is variant number 108,000 of the silver Wilkinson, but it's a really cool fly, and the colors just look beautiful. So I hope you liked it. I hope you liked the tutorial. And if you want to see more, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Yeah, I'll try to make more videos for you guys as fast as I can. Have a nice day.